So I'm going to just do things with, it's late in the day, with some props. Just setting the scene, which Grace has already done, but just filling in a little bit more. I'm going to just focus on the coastal rim. Coastal rim is particularly important. That's where you have the highest biomass. It's warm, the sun can shine through.
Karen, I think you'll have to take the...
Okay.
Yeah, keep that with you.
Okay. So the sun can get through, plants can grow, algae can grow. That allows other animals to come in, to feed, to hide. So you have the highest diversity, the highest biomass. You've got upwellings in the coastal zone, which recycle the nutrients, which then gets the large animals like the whales in. So this area, even though Ireland has maybe 6.5 times more sea than land, our most precious is our coastal zone. However, with climate change, it's the most vulnerable. Think of the weather we've had this summer. Think of the amount of rain we've had. Our Coastwatch survey is just finishing, and right now we have had more slumps and cliff falls, like avalanches, coming down because of that weather than we have ever had before. Huge areas, tonnages the size of this room, falling down into the sea, turning the sea into chocolate brown silt, which has to settle somewhere. When it gets dry, like last year and the year before in the summer and really hot, what area heats up most? It's the intertidal mudflats, and particularly those which are eutrophic, where you have this carpet of green algae on top, because that keeps the heat like as though you are under a warming blanket. And Rita, one of my master students who's since done a lot more work on seagrass, was looking at the temperature of the seagrass in the Marion Strand area, which is really eutrophic. And there's temperatures which are just simply too hot. Your lugworm, your cockles, they can't bear that heat, and they come up. And if you have enough of those heat moments or days or weeks, we will really see a massive change in the biota in our inshore areas. You're looking at kelp. Over the last 10 years, the number of places where after long heat waves, kelp has died is phenomenal. Our Coastwatch coordinators in Portugal, Spain, France have said that they've lost hundreds of kilometers of kelp. Kelp can take short periods of warmer water, but when you have over 20 degrees for several weeks, it dies. We have kelp like this tiny little thing. I was going to bring you a beautiful big one, but I didn't. This is just dried as it sits with its hold fast on the ground. We are so lucky how much we have. And we have to be really, really wise on protecting it, because that kelp and the seagrass, which quite often goes with it, they are, and the other seaweeds, they balance the whole system. Even if it gets hot, animals can go into the shade of it. So it's a huge, huge benefit. It's like you wouldn't go out into the cold if it's really cold without gloves. The sea has the algae and the seagrasses as its gloves to protect. And we have to look after those. Storms. Storms come into the coastal zone and wreck things. You can have either unusual wind patterns in the last few years have caused mass deaths of intertidal organisms. Some of you might remember a few years ago when you had huge, like a layer, maybe 6-inch deep, of dying animals on the shore here because they had been washed out by unceasing wind. That did happen historically as well, and there are records of it, but now it's happening much more frequently. So you've got things like the sea potato, we probably can't recover quickly enough in between those episodes. So there are certain animals which are much more susceptible to climate change than others. Again, what should we do about that? Look at this guy. This is supposed to be a lobster. He's metal, not plastic. Grace mentioned acidification. A lobster and a crab and shrimp and so on, all these crustaceans, they need to take calcium. If they want to grow, they have to break the carapace open, get out naked, drink an awful lot of salt water to make them as big as possible, and then the new shell has to grow as quick as possible. If your water, if the pH drops, if it becomes more acidic, it is much slower to grow a new shell. What we have noticed over the last 4 years is more soft shell crab, just the carapace, soft carapace. The animals are much more, we don't know. Is it that the animals, the carapace, particularly when it's hot, the new shell grows slower, and therefore they're more susceptible to predator attack for longer? Or is there something else? But definitely, from what Coastwatchers are sending us from around the country, there appears to be more soft shell. This hasn't been researched yet, I'm just saying what we are looking at in patterns. When everything gets really bad, it's too late. So we have to act now, just as we said. And there are lots of laws and policies, but devil's in the detail. For example, like Grace said, you have got lots of laws and you've got protected areas, loads of protected areas, but when you look at them in detail, there's no enforcement. Are we listening to old people, to traditional fishermen, small inshore, like the draft fishermen, the old salmon men? No, we don't. Quite often we don't. We need to, because they still have that knowledge on the ground. And that knowledge, traditional knowledge, needs to be put together with the scientific knowledge we have now. We need to combine that very tightly. Scientific, citizen science. Because with over 7,200 kilometers offshore, there's no way the state can enforce and monitor everything properly. We need citizens to help do that. I just want to finish with seagrass to give you a flavour of how little we know. Coastwatch has started a seagrass campaign, because seagrass is incredibly important for sequestering carbon from the atmosphere and for storing it, both in the rhizomes of the grass and in the sediment below. It's more efficient than your normal forest. So it's very valuable to know where it is and to look after it. We don't look after it in terms of protection. The only area where I know for sure that it's well protected is Mallorca, where they have a seagrass law, where it is illegal to take it in any way. We could protect it under the Flora Protection Order, which is 1976, long time. We haven't done so yet. So what we wanted to do, first of all, is to find out where does the seagrass live, because government is doing some monitoring under the Water Framework Directive, and National Parks and Wildlife Service also has 14 sites which are protected with seagrass as one of the protection, conservation objectives, so to speak. So we asked people, we explained what it looked like. My apologies, I don't have a prop for it today. Loads and loads of animals live in seagrass. It's like a nursery for loads and loads of animals. So we first asked people, we told them what it looks like. We said, look what lives there. Then we took photos, which people sent us. We put them in a bag like that. And then when somebody finds a new seagrass meadow, we give them a bag, and we ask them to name that seagrass meadow. Now, you would expect loads and loads of seagrass meadows on the west coast. where the water is clear, where you have nice shelter between rocks and so on. But guess what? About a month ago, I got a phone call from Gordon, the beach guard, who some of you, lifeguard in Sandy Cove, who some of you might even know. And he said he had found seagrass, long seagrass. And I thought, very, very unlikely. The long seagrass meadows are officially, the last one is in Kilmore Quay, South Wexford. The next one is officially in County Down. In between, there's the short seagrass lawn, but no meadows. So I didn't trust Gordon. But anyway, I was interested. So I went to see Gordon. And he swam out like a fish, dived down. First of all, he looked like a seal, this direction, that direction, so he was triangulating between the Mexican embassy and two chimneys and a tree in between. And then he dived down. He brought up a beautiful 1.28 meter piece of seagrass. Brilliant. So how come something sits under our nose? The rhizomes were nice and thick. They weren't this year's growth. And since then, a few divers have said they've seen it for a few years. It's sitting under our nose. It's not part of the special area of conservation. Scientists have missed it, and a beach guard finds it. And by accident, the Newry County Council protects it. How do they protect it? Because that area of Sandy Cove is a bathing area, and they've plunked big yellow buoys down to prevent anyone anchoring or jet skiing into it. And then also, there's a resident population of lion's mane jellyfish, which keep anybody else out. So think of it, you've got this absolute beauty, right so close we can walk to it. So when we think of new laws, yes, we absolutely need them. We can also cleverly use old laws, and we can all help in every way that where there is a law, to try and apply it, and where there isn't, use common sense anyway, like sewage treatment. That needs to be rethought. I'm in a department of civil engineering. We need to rethink sewage treatment so that it fits with modern rainfall, that it doesn't constantly overflow whenever there's heavy rainfall. We can also do something else in the short term, stop wet wipes. Because wet wipes are one really serious, avoidable problem in our sewer system, which causes a lot of the overflows. So you have things which could be done very quickly, and things which need a lot of money. I'm almost finished here. Seagrass, I'd like to protect it wherever it occurs. Our first marine protection area bill is going to come in before Christmas. Dún is going to speak about it, just in case he forgets it. I am going to say that we can designate all of our sea, but if we don't actually act, we might as well, I don't know, eat an ice cream and look at it. It means nothing. Under the UN and under the EU biodiversity strategy, we are to protect at least 10% of our seas strictly. Now, we can all help make sure that that is in the bill, and that also that is done so cleverly, so well, like the plastic bag tax, that it actually works. So this can be done with citizens, and I'm hoping we will have a workshop, a Coastwatch workshop, on the 10th and 11th of December, which is how to do this, how to have effective management in the coastal area, particularly with people. And if you go on our website, www.coastwatch.org, progressively there'll be more details. Now it's just the date and that they'll be in Dublin. Thank you very much.